Hi all, another Tim Talk Tuesday, and today we're going to wrap up our 5-part series on how to keep your balance physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Today's focus will be on the spiritual balance. When I say the word spiritual, I'm not necessarily implying religiousness, but talking about how we live through our beliefs and our values. Creates the why for what we do. Why do you care about this? Why do you choose these rules? Why do you believe these things? And as we become more and more aware of what it is that we believe, gives us a sense of balance that enables us to be more functional and more successful in our lives. There are basically 4 stages on belief. When you start out in life, there's a blank slate. It's a kind of a empty bucket in which you can put things in. When you interact with the world around you as a child, you see your parents, you see your siblings, you see the community in which you live. And there are certain values and beliefs that are passed on through intentionality and oftentimes unintentionally. We grow up in those assuming those to be true. And that's natural and it's okay. But at some point we begin to encounter and our brains begin to grow and we see that there are things that don't make sense to us. There might be contradictions, there might be inconsistencies. And we wrestle with this. It creates a friction within us as to whether or not what we believe, is it true or not? Or maybe is it complete or not? And so we go into a 3rd stage where we begin to wrestle with it. It's similar to what I think a butterfly must go through when it goes into a chrysalis. You have this one way of life, and then all of a sudden things really begin to morph, and you're trying to figure out who you really are. Do I really believe that? Do I really believe that applies in this situation? And so we struggle with that for a length of time. It could be a long time in many cases. But at some point, we begin to get a sense of what we believe personally, where we come to it on our own, through our own journey of trying to determine what it is that we truly believe. So we go from a sense of blankness to believing what other people have told us, to the wrestling belief system, and finally to our own beliefs. And this isn't a one-time thing. It's a lifetime journey because we learn new things, we experience new things on a regular basis. And based on the framework and the perspective that we have at that time, we take that information in and integrate it into our lives. But as we move forward, again, life has a way of helping us see things differently. It might jog us in a way, or it might shock us in a way to be able to see things in a different perspective. And so this journey is cyclical in many ways. And the best thing we can do is to be open to the world around us. As we hear things, we take it in and we weigh it and we put it in the perspective of the things we believe now. And if there are contradictions or inconsistencies, you have the option of wrestling through those and coming to your own set of beliefs. Brene Brown talks about in her book, Dare to Lead, that there are a whole series of values in this world. She challenges in the book to pick 2 values that you live out of. And for me, those 2 values are balance and love. It's no surprise, guess. When I try to find balance in my life in the midst of all these other things, it enables me to see the world in a better way, to function in a more efficient way. And working on growth, and as I look at things in terms of balance, I can determine whether or not I'm dealing with physical or mental or emotional or a spiritual aspect. And it helps me get a clearer picture of the path that I need to take. Underlying, though, the big one for me is love. And love for me is all about relationships. And the definition that I found years ago that I really value a lot is love is a commitment to the good of the other. These are my values. and living in them, I can determine if my life is in balance or not, whether I'm living congruently within that. Congruent being what I say and what I do, and that matching well. When I live outside of that congruency, I feel the friction. I feel a sense of discomfort, dysfunction. And moving back into that balance, moving back into those sets of values, gives my life integrity and purpose. So you are on that same journey in your life of determining what you believe, why you believe it. And I challenge you to really take a hard look at where you might be in those 4 stages. Do you have a belief about those things? Do you have a belief that others have shared with you that might be what you want to believe, but it's someone else's belief? Are you in the midst of wrestling with your own? Or have you come to a sense of understanding of this is what I believe, at least for right now, until I get more information? Again, we're never complete in our journey. We never have all the information. So if we live openly and embrace differences to see, is there a seed of truth in those that will enable us to be better people? And as we grow and as we learn, this allows us to reach a better spiritual balance. So over the last few weeks, we've talked about physical balance and staying healthy. We talked about mental balance and learning how to think about our thinking. The emotional balance and talking about emotional intelligence and how we learn to be self-aware and better self-managers so that we can be more empathetic and more socially aware so that ultimately our relationships are empowered. And with our spiritual balance, where are you in your spiritual growth? Are you seeking to know more about what is true and what is real and what is authentic in this world and how it integrates into who you are? And ultimately, the phrase that I embrace, when we find our balance, we're learning to find ourselves. And as we find ourselves, then we need to choose, is this who we want to be? And we accept that. When we have a sense of who we are and we've embraced who we are, then we are empowered to give ourselves away, to make a difference. Gandhi has a quote that I'll probably butcher, but basically, the best way to find ourselves is to give ourselves away in service. That's a value, that's a belief in which I hold dearly. And I hope that you will think through that as well. And as we continue to move through this time of craziness with the COVID virus, I hope that you will take the time to reflect on where you are in those 4 elements of your balance. Work toward finding a solution to anything that may be out of balance. And as you need help or need resources, feel free to reach out to me if you'd like. And in all of this, I wish you the best. And I hope that in the weeks to come, you will find your balance.